All right, we are still standing by here for the other jurors to return back into the courtroom. A decision has been made. We do have 6 jurors, and we do have 4 alternates, so we can start this trial involving George Zimmerman. Most likely, according to Mark O'Mara, yesterday they are planning to start this trial on Monday. Excuse me. All right, let's bring in Jaya Balani, our News 13 legal analyst, who is standing by. So, Jaya, of course, the big news here is this all-female jury. Who do you think that might favor?
That's a tough call, because I mean, you look at the females, they have the maternal instinct, and you look at a 17-year-old boy. I think it's going to be tough for the defense, but you don't have, I mean, with females analyzing it, I don't know if that's going to be great for the defense, in just my opinion.
All right, we have to wait and see. Also, Jaya, another looking at this, the racial background of the jurors, 5 are white, 1 is a non-white or a minority. Who do you think that's going to favor?
It's hard to tell in this situation. I mean, there has been racial undertones in this trial throughout the whole thing for the past 16 months. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. The one good thing about having an all-woman jury is the women, I believe, will be able to analyze the law, break it down. I don't know if it's going to help regarding the firearm aspect. It's going to be a tough call. No one can tell at this point.
It is hard to tell, but the main point here is that all these jurors had to say they had not formed an opinion in this case, that they could render a fair verdict. Maybe cannot put all of their biases aside, but at least be able to look at the evidence and decide if George Zimmerman is innocent or guilty. So that will be their charge coming up very soon. As we look inside the courtroom right now, Judge Deborah Nelson looking straight ahead here. What was really interesting, Jaya, while they were going through the strikes, was how active George Zimmerman was in this entire process, talking with the attorneys, was let in apparently with every step of who was going to be on that jury.
I think it's great that he was involved with it. I mean, it's his fate, it's his life, it's his trial. Everyone has a right to have their input, exactly who's going to be making the decision on what happens with his case, and I commend him for being part of it.
Absolutely. And we saw there during the court proceedings where the judge stopped, had George Zimmerman stand up and ask them, are you pleased with the decisions your attorneys have been making? Have you been able to be a part of this procedure as well? You know, Jaya, we've been seeing that throughout this entire jury selection process. The judge really wanting to make sure that he is involved in this process. And why is that important? Talk to us about that.
Because what happens is if he's not involved and the attorneys are making all the wrong decisions and he doesn't have a part of it, there's what's called a 3850. It's ineffective assistance of counsel. So after, say he loses, he can come back and say, my attorneys didn't involve me. They were ineffective. They did something wrong, and that will give him a chance to possibly have a new trial. She's making sure that he's part of it and that everything they're doing is to his satisfaction, so he can't come back and appeal for that.
All right, let's go back inside the courtroom. All right, let's bring in News 13 legal analyst Jaya Balani, who has been standing by giving her analysis about what's going on here. And Jaya, we have talked about the fact that it's been picked as an all-woman jury, and the fact that you have 5 white women, 1 that is a minority. But we haven't talked a lot about the age here. And Jaya, it seems as if, I might get a little trouble for saying this, that they were a little bit more mature, some who are making the jury, somewhere between, guessing, we don't know their age, but just by the looks of things, somewhere between 50 to 60. How could that factor into this trial?
It could definitely factor in, because you have to understand when they were being raised around this time, they have different opinions. They have different opinions on firearm usage, on what's acceptable, self-defense. If you talk to just different generations, they're going to have different aspects of it, so that might make a difference whether or not a self-defense to one person is really a self-defense to a different person of a different age.
All right, well, we're looking at the 6 who make up the jury, Jaya, just kind of breaking down and looking back over my notes about what some of them had to say. 2 of these potential jurors were not even living in Florida at the time when all of this happened. There you see on your screen, these are the jurors that were selected. I'm talking about B29 and E40. B29, Jaya, was actually living in Chicago. She wasn't here when all this happened. And then there's E40 on that list. She was actually living in Iowa and didn't move here until November of 2012. And listening to them, they didn't seem to know much. Also, another one that I remember being kind of funny was B37. That was the mom, Jaya, who says, they asked her, does she read newspapers? She goes, newspapers are good for putting at the bottom of my parrot's cage. I don't read the paper. I don't watch the news much. I'm not really involved. So talk to me about how important it sounds like, at least for a few of these who don't know much about this case at all.
I feel like those are going to be the best jurors. They're the ones who don't know anything. They're going to come in with a completely clean slate. They're going to be listening to all the evidence. Their mind won't get so confused from what they heard or what they read prior to what they actually heard in the trial. Remember, we're 2 to 4 weeks. That's a lot of information that's going to come in during that time frame. And sometimes, I mean, we're only human. It's going to be hard to separate what you know prior to. So those 3 jurors that don't know a lot are probably going to be the best jurors on there.
Absolutely. The big question, of course, who's going to be the foreman? We'll have to wait and see what that's going to be. Just a few minutes.